surprise. Phaedra been doing this bullshit for a very long time. Phaedra did this exact same thing to me, as we've already discussed before. Years ago on the show, when she first came on, she brought on my half biological sister on the show and filmed with her the same way she did with Kandi when she brought that Johnny guy on. She did the same thing to me, tried to take me down, and it didn't work because we ended up getting it before it even hit the air. So Phaedra's been doing stuff like this.
The screen stays dark for a moment, just the faint echo of a voice repeating like a broken confession. She's been doing this for years. She tried to take me down too. And then silence. A silence so heavy it feels like truth is clawing its way to the surface. Because tonight, everything you thought you knew about Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker's picture-perfect marriage is about to be shattered. And the person pulling the curtain back? NeNe Leakes, the one woman who's never been afraid to say what everyone else whispers. According to NeNe, this wasn't a love story. It was a strategy. A contract built on control, opportunity, power, and secrets buried so deep Bravo cameras never caught them. She claims Kandi married Todd not for love, but for leverage, because Todd didn't enter that marriage as an equal. And Todd? NeNe says he played his own game, chasing status, money, even allegedly slipping into Portia's world when Kandi wasn't looking. But NeNe didn't stop at the marriage. She pointed straight at Mama Joyce, at Riley, at the manipulation behind closed doors, and the dark dynamics fans never saw. If NeNe is right, then this divorce isn't the end of a marriage. It's the collapse of a manufactured empire built on lies. Buckle up, because the truth starts now.
NeNe, you called out Kandi and Mama Joyce in your blog about the Bailey Bowl. You said, Kandi, you have never seen me walk away from a fight, and you've never seen me physically fight.
Right on.
My son was at this event, and as much as I would like to be Mama Joyce and take my shoe off and hit somebody or drag someone down the street, I would never stoop so low to the gutter with my son around.
100% correct.
That
My
pissed me
son
off.
was, well,
Because you didn't have to address my mom in your blog.
well, I did.
That's first off, and
I
you shouldn't
did.
have.
Well, I
because
did,
you
and
don't
I
want people
could.
to address your family.
Listen,
And I just feel
Kandi,
like any
you
time
said in
that
your
you
interview
always
and
say,
said what you
I
had to
never
say.
address your
Go ahead,
family on
go ahead and
anything.
talk. Go ahead
I
and say
never
what you gotta
address your
say.
family or
Go ahead,
anything.
but you can't.
Well, I am saying what I want to say because
ahead.
I don't address your family. You wouldn't appreciate it. And that's one of the instances of what I be trying to tell you about. You do stuff that you don't like for people to do to you. Now, you can say whatever you want to me. I really don't care. But
The screen opens with a slow, uneasy fade. A hush falls over the room, the kind of silence that feels like the truth has finally stepped into the light. Tonight, we bring you the revelation no one imagined would ever reach the public. NeNe Leakes, the original queen of Real Housewives of Atlanta, has detonated a truth bomb so shocking, so deeply buried, that it has shaken the Bravo universe to its core. According to NeNe, what the world saw as a glamorous marriage was nothing more than a carefully constructed performance. A chessboard disguised as love. A partnership engineered not from the heart, but from power, leverage, and survival. NeNe claims that Kandi Burruss married Todd Tucker for one reason only: control. Todd, financially outmatched and socially dependent on Kandi's fame, entered the marriage with no equal footing. To NeNe, this wasn't romance. It was strategy. Kandi saw an opportunity to mold, shape, and dominate a man who needed her more than she needed him. And Todd? NeNe says he played his own opportunistic game. That the love he portrayed on camera was a mask, and behind the scenes, his loyalty was tied not to emotion, but to lifestyle, access, and status. But NeNe didn't stop there. She alleged that throughout Bravo filming, Kandi attempted to control not just her husband, but the entire cast. Every storyline, every alliance, every moment that could push her forward as the fan favorite, even if it meant quietly manipulating others into roles that benefited her narrative. NeNe even claimed that Kandi tried to pull Portia Williams into her behind-the-scenes strategy, not openly, but subtly, quietly, calculatingly, just enough to tilt public perception without ever getting her own hands dirty. According to NeNe, the marriage between Kandi and Todd wasn't built on affection. It was built on illusion. A prenup that favored Kandi's empire. A structure that secured her financial dominance. And a husband who allegedly stayed because the benefits outweighed the truth. NeNe even went as far as to claim that Todd had a secret affair with Portia, and that there may even be a child involved. Whether true or not, NeNe delivered it with the tone of someone who believed she had watched a storm forming for years, while Kandi remained completely blind to it. She turned her attention next to Mama Joyce and Riley, revealing a far darker dynamic. Mama Joyce, according to NeNe, wasn't just protective. She was toxic. She allegedly poisoned the marriage from day one, calling Todd an opportunist before the public ever formed an opinion of their own. And Riley, shaped by Kandi and Mama Joyce's long-held resentment, supposedly never accepted Todd as a father figure. In NeNe's words, this wasn't a family, it was a brand, a machine, a structure managed like a business with no real emotional foundation. And then came the claim that sent fans into a tailspin. The alleged threesome, the one Kandi herself once joked about in an interview, was not an isolated moment of honesty, but a window into the power dynamics that NeNe says define their entire marriage. To NeNe, Kandi's need to control every environment extended even into her intimacy, and Todd was simply swept along, never seen as an equal partner. She warned viewers that this marriage was doomed from the start. Two people who don't love each other can perform love, can display unity, can raise children, can build a house, but they cannot build a heart. Behind the smiles, NeNe says, the disconnect was unmistakable.
He's overrated and overpaid.
I do.
Tell me why.
I just don't think that, me and Kandi, just so for the record, so that everybody can know, I just always want to speak very freely and very honest. Kandi and I have severed any issues that we had, which I don't think that I never ever understood why she has so much animosity towards me. And some of these other girls who are ripping her apart, like she's back friends with Portia now. And I love Portia, but I would not be friends with Portia if I was Kandi. According to what Portia and Phaedra did to her, then she should probably never be friends with her again. But she's found a way to bridge the gap, and now they're talking.
NeNe's point is clear. Kandi doesn't operate through emotion. She operates through strategy. Even friendships are reconstructed when they benefit her image. Even betrayal can be forgiven if it strengthens her storyline. This revelation forces viewers to reconsider everything they once believed about Kandi and Todd, because if their friendships were calculated, what does that say about their marriage? NeNe's final blow was directed at Todd himself. She asserted that Todd never loved Kandi. Not truly. Not deeply. Not in the way marriage demands. His rumored relationship with Portia, if true, only exposed how emotionally detached he was all along. Yet he stayed, NeNe claims, because Kandi's financial power made the marriage worth enduring. As NeNe told it, this wasn't a union built on love. It was a silent negotiation between two people who needed each other for entirely different reasons. And when NeNe's allegations hit the public, social media exploded. Timelines flooded with disbelief, shock, anger, and questions. Every fan, every critic, every Bravo follower found themselves gripped by the possibility that the marriage they watched for years wasn't a dream, but a carefully crafted illusion. A performance. A production. A story built not for each other, but for us. NeNe had pulled back the curtain. She had exposed the cracks, the manipulation, the secrets, the power plays, the alleged affairs, and the emotional emptiness that she says defined Kandi and Todd's relationship from day one. If this is the beginning, then what comes next will shake not just Bravo, but the entire world watching. Because NeNe leaks didn't just expose a marriage, she exposed an empire. And yet, even after NeNe tore the veil off their marriage, the deeper you look, the clearer it becomes that this story was never just about love, or betrayal, or even fame. It was about power, silent, suffocating power that shaped every breath inside that household. The kind of power that doesn't shout, but whispers. The kind that doesn't break a door down, it slowly closes it, inch by inch, until no one notices they're locked inside. People always imagine Kandi Burruss as unshakable, confident, composed, unstoppable. But NeNe insisted that beneath that polished surface lived someone terrified of losing control. Someone who believed that as long as she held the narrative, she held the world. And Todd Tucker became the perfect pawn in that quiet empire. A husband presented to the world as supportive and loving, yet privately treated like an extension of Kandi's brand. NeNe described a marriage in which Todd knew his position. He knew where the boundaries were and how carefully they were drawn. She said Todd learned quickly that stepping out of line didn't bring arguments, it brought consequences. Silent consequences. Emotional distance. Financial reminders. Power shifts disguised as compromise. A marriage that looked steady from the outside, but felt like a negotiation from within. And then, there was the Portia situation. NeNe didn't call it a rumor. She called it a caution sign that everyone ignored. She said Todd and Portia's connection didn't appear suddenly, it built in shadows, in private conversations, in lingering chemistry the cameras weren't supposed to catch. According to NeNe, the whispers were never baseless. And the possibility of a child, that was the kind of revelation that could collapse a storyline overnight. The kind of revelation Kandi's team would bury before it reached daylight. But NeNe claimed it wasn't the affair that broke the marriage, it was the truth that Kandi refused to see. The truth that Todd may never have been fully hers. Not emotionally. Not intimately. Not even strategically. Because opportunists don't belong to people, they belong to opportunities. Still, the darkest part of NeNe's revelation wasn't about Portia. It wasn't about Todd. It was about the atmosphere inside Kandi's home. NeNe suggested that Mama Joyce didn't just dislike Todd, she fueled the tension, feeding Kandi's insecurities until the marriage wasn't a union, but a controlled environment. Every decision, every move, every financial step traced back to Mama Joyce's approval or disapproval. And Kandi, desperate to keep her public image balanced, allegedly folded into that influence more than anyone realized. NeNe claimed Riley grew up absorbing that same energy, that the distance she kept from Todd wasn't rebellion, it was conditioning. She didn't see Todd as a father, she saw him as an outsider, a man tolerated for the sake of stability, but never embraced. A man who could provide, but never belong. And that dynamic, NeNe insisted, created a fracture that money, fame, and brand building could never fix. Then came the part that shook viewers the most, the alleged threesome. NeNe didn't present it as a scandal, she presented it as evidence. Evidence that intimacy in that house wasn't driven by connection, but by control. Evidence that Kandi blurred boundaries whenever it suited her narrative, and Todd complied because resistance meant risking everything. NeNe painted the picture of a marriage where nothing was natural, nothing was effortless, nothing was truly mutual. A partnership run like a production set, rehearsed and revised until it looked right for the world. NeNe claimed that Todd began withdrawing long before the cameras noticed. She said he learned to survive through silence, to navigate through compliance, to move like a man who knew his position depended on staying quiet. And when he didn't, when he started finding comfort outside the marriage, even if that comfort's name was Portia, it was because he had already accepted the truth. He wasn't living in a marriage. He was living in Kandi's ecosystem. But NeNe didn't let Todd escape criticism. She made it clear that Todd wasn't a victim, he was a contributor. She said Todd played along because he saw the power, the lifestyle, the platform. He took what he needed and gave just enough in return to keep the doors open. He wasn't manipulated, he adapted. He wasn't blind, he was strategic. And when opportunity with Portia came, he didn't hesitate, he stepped into it like a man who had been waiting for his exit plan all along. And then NeNe said something that froze the internet. She said Kandi wasn't hurt by the affair, she was hurt by the exposure. She was hurt because losing Todd didn't mean losing love, it meant losing control. Losing the narrative. Losing the image she had maintained for years. She said that Kandi fought harder for public perception than she ever fought for her marriage. And Todd knew it. NeNe insisted that the reason Kandi looked blindsided was not because Todd betrayed her, but because the world found out before she could manage the spin. A marriage that had become a brand was suddenly unraveling in real time, and she wasn't prepared. But perhaps the most haunting part of NeNe's reveal was her final warning. She said the public only knows half the story. That the facade Bravo viewers watched was carefully constructed by producers, and by Kandi herself. She claimed Kandi has always been skilled at controlling how much of her personal life is exposed, revealing just enough vulnerability to gain sympathy, but never enough truth to lose control. NeNe said the divorce didn't break Kandi, it exposed her. It exposed the cracks she had been sealing for years. It exposed a husband who never fully belonged to her. It exposed a family dynamic rooted not in love, but in hierarchy. It exposed a woman who built her world on control, and watched it collapse the moment control slipped away. By the time NeNe finished speaking, fans were left in disbelief. Not because her claims were too wild, but because they were too familiar. Too consistent with the tension viewers had sensed for years. Too aligned with moments that never made sense. Too reflective of a marriage that always looked polished on the outside, but hollow in its quietest moments. But the story didn't end with the exposure of their marriage. In many ways, that was only the beginning, the moment the mask finally cracked and the world began to see what had always been hiding underneath. Because once NeNe's words hit the public, once fans started stitching the missing pieces together, everything Kandi and Todd tried to protect began to unravel in full view. Behind the scenes, the tension between them was no longer something they could disguise with a smile or bury with a storyline. People close to them began whispering that the house no longer felt like a home. It felt like a negotiation table where two exhausted players were trying to hold on to their last remaining pieces. And every room, every hallway, every conversation carried the weight of years of unspoken resentment. Todd, once quiet and accommodating, was said to have shifted. He wasn't trying to maintain the image anymore. He wasn't trying to fix what had been broken long before NeNe ever spoke. He looked like a man who was finally telling himself the truth, that he had been playing a role that wasn't his, living a life built around someone else's script. A script he had outgrown. A script he didn't want to pretend through any longer. And Kandi, she didn't collapse the way people expected. She hardened. Those closest to her said she moved like someone preparing for battle, not heartbreak. She wasn't grieving a marriage, she was defending an empire. Every move she made was calculated, every interview crafted, every silence intentional. Not because she was trying to save the relationship, but because she was trying to save her legacy. That was the irony in all of this. NeNe said Kandi never fought for Todd. She only fought for control. And in the end, that was the only thing she was still trying to save. People inside Bravo began to see shifts as well. Allegedly, producers who once relied on Kandi's calm demeanor and business-first mentality suddenly found her unpredictable, defensive, and unwilling to let anyone near the cracks she was trying so desperately to hide. For the first time, she felt vulnerable on a platform she had mastered. For the first time, her storyline wasn't hers to shape. And then the rumors intensified about Todd's alleged connection with Portia. NeNe's claims, once dismissed by fans as exaggeration, now resurfaced with new context. Fans pointed to old clips, subtle interactions, moments that once seemed harmless, but now carried an entirely different weight. Suddenly, people weren't asking if something happened, they were asking how long it had been happening and how much Kandi had ignored. But NeNe's allegations didn't just reopen questions about Todd. They reopened questions about Kandi herself. People started rewatching years of footage with fresh eyes, noticing patterns they had overlooked. The tension with cast members, the passive-aggressive control, the recurring theme of Kandi positioning herself as the wronged one, even in situations where she held far more power than she admitted. Riley's coldness suddenly made sense to viewers. Mama Joyce's hostility felt less like concern and more like the protective armor of someone who knew too much about the fragility of the marriage. Fans began to see the marriage not as a partnership, but as a delicate arrangement, where everyone involved had a role to play, and Todd's role had always been the most restricted. As the story continued to explode online, what shocked people most wasn't the affair rumors or the power dynamics. It was the idea that Kandi and Todd's entire marriage might have been built on mutual convenience rather than mutual affection. That both of them entered the marriage fully aware of what they stood to gain, but unprepared for what it would cost them in the end. And the cost kept rising. People from Kandi's circle allegedly began distancing themselves, unwilling to get caught in the emotional fallout. Todd, on the other hand, seemed more isolated than ever, navigating a world where he was no longer the underdog viewers rooted for, but a man accused of betrayal on every level. He wasn't fighting back, not publicly. Some said he was tired. Others said he was guilty. And some said he was finally free from pretending. But the darkest part was yet to come. NeNe hinted that there were things she hadn't said. Things she held back because revealing them would burn what little remained of Kandi and Todd's public facade. She hinted at an emotional distance between them that began long before their household issues became visible. She suggested that Todd had checked out years ago, and Kandi had compensated by tightening her grip, convincing herself that control was the same thing as closeness. And when control is mistaken for connection, collapse becomes unavoidable. People close to the couple started describing a strange quietness between them, an emotional distance so deep that even arguments stopped happening. Not because problems were solved, but because they no longer cared enough to fight. They lived in the same space, shared the same roof, but their lives were running parallel, never touching. Two people waiting for the moment the truth would become louder than the performance. Friends claimed they stopped celebrating anniversaries with joy and started treating them like obligations. That dinners turned into negotiations. That even public appearances felt forced, as if the marriage was running on fumes, held together by shared assets, shared children, and the fear of public scrutiny. And when the divorce paperwork finally surfaced, the world wasn't surprised. They were stunned, but not surprised. Because once NeNe ripped the veil off, the marriage couldn't hide behind its storyline anymore. The silence between Kandi and Todd became louder than the cheers of fans. The cracks became more noticeable than the smiles. People began to realize the truth NeNe had been hinting at for years. Some marriages aren't broken suddenly. They erode slowly, quietly, in the moments no one sees. In the compromises that feel harmless at first, until they pile into a mountain of resentment. Todd allegedly left emotionally long before he left physically. Kandi allegedly clung to the marriage long after she knew it was over, not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of what losing Todd would symbolize. Fear of what the world would say. Fear of losing the control that defined her life. And somewhere in that emotional battlefield, both became trapped in a story that no longer belonged to them. By the time the world finally caught up, by the time social media pieced together NeNe's clues, the collapse was already complete. The divorce wasn't the beginning of the end, it was the final act of a story that had been dying quietly for years. The question haunting viewers isn't why did Kandi and Todd break up? It's how did a marriage built on strategy ever survive as long as it did? Because in the end, NeNe didn't expose a moment. She exposed a pattern. A truth that had been waiting to be spoken. And now that it's out, nothing will ever be the same again. The lights dim once more, And the echoes of everything exposed tonight linger like a shadow you can't walk away from. Because what NeNe leaks revealed wasn't just gossip, wasn't just another Bravo scandal, wasn't just a celebrity divorce destined for headlines. It was a blueprint, the anatomy of a marriage built on calculation, power, and silent fractures that finally caved under their own weight. And now, as the curtain falls, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker weren't just navigating a relationship. They were navigating a battlefield. A battlefield where every smile was rehearsed, every gesture measured, every public moment polished into perfection, while the private world beneath it rotted away. A battlefield shaped by influence, guarded by family loyalties, crowded by hidden alliances, and overshadowed by the very secrets NeNe had the courage or the audacity to drag into the light. Tonight, you witnessed a collapse years in the making. A truth that didn't break overnight, but eroded piece by piece, confession by confession, silence by silence, until the final crack could no longer be ignored. But the real question isn't whether NeNe was right. The real question is this: if she was right about this, what else has been hiding in the shadows? And that's where you come in. If you want the full picture, if you want the stories Bravo never aired, the secrets the cast never admitted, the alliances that rewrote friendships and buried marriages, then stay here. Because the truth doesn't end with this divorce. It only begins. Subscribe, hit the bell, and prepare yourself. There are more stories to uncover, more lies to unravel, more masks waiting to fall. This was NeNe's Expose. But the next revelation? That one might shake the entire Bravo universe.